No! No!
Extravaganza.
Ladies and gentlemen, now boarding for the Horror Pop Extravaganza, episode 53. Ladies and gentlemen, now boarding for the Horror Pop Extravaganza, episode 53. We're leaving Earth for space. What's up,
No one
ghosts?
can hear you scream.
Right, where no one can hear you scream. What is up, all you wonderful ghosts out there in the world? This is the Horror Pop Extravaganza, episode 53, where the macabre meets the mindful. When those two things come together, I am always this Pops Ghostly, and with me today,
Corinne Hole. Cornhole.
say it one more time slowly.
Corinne Hole.
Corinne Hole. Corinne.
Cornhole. Corinne
Corinne
Hole.
Hole. Corinne Hole.
Corn.
Cornhole. The great cornholio, ladies and gentlemen. That's a pretty creative one. I kind of like that one. How are you today, sir? Corin Hole. Cornhole. There it is. I found it.
You found it. Yeah.
I found it.
You found the cornhole.
There's no corn here. What the fuck? I love cream corn. This don't smell like cream corn. All right, go ahead. You were saying
Peanut stuck in his head. I was just holding back my 7-year-old daughter's hair as she vomited. So
the sickness got a little bit of that ick going around.
Got that ick, dude.
Dude, my kid had it a couple days ago and was sitting there with a tray. She had just eaten some like hot dogs or corn dogs or something like that. She's like, I don't feel good. And I just had to sit there and hold the tray as she vomited straight on it. And I'm like, just try and keep it on the tray. And then I'm trying to carry it to the kitchen. There's puke dribbling all over the floor, all over the fucking floor. Like, well,
fucking stormy sea of corn dog on the tray.
and Shayna knows, like, she knows I'm not a puke person. I've just never have been. I was just when I texted her because she was gone. I'm like, oh man, Anna just got really sick. I think she's sick of this and that. I said I was very brave. She's like, you were, if you cleaned all that up, because she knows that just fucking it's rough for me. But that's a bummer, dude. Hopefully your little one feels good pretty quick or is on the mend relatively quick. No fever or anything like that, though. Like nothing you're hyper concerned about yet. Well, that's good.
Not that, but I just don't want to get sick, dude. Like throwing up for me is like close to getting cornholed. Like it's the worst.
That's fair.
And I'm not like one of those good throw uppers, that are just like, bleh.
Yeah.
I'm like expelling a demon from deep inside.
It's a show. Like you're getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, I do the spit like.
And then you're like, oh, is it finally fucking over? Then it's like,
here it comes again. Oh god.
Right.
And then you feel great for like 5 minutes, and then you're like, oh, it's coming back.
Yeah, and then it hurts again. Okay, so if anyone is still listening after we've talked about a ton of gross shit in the first 5 minutes of this episode, we are here.
It's not gonna get better.
That is true. This one has some really good shit, and we're going to space. Going out to space because space is cool. Even though this is the first time, and we'll talk about it a little bit, that I feel like we really got to see Weyland-Yutani on the ground. Like what an actual, and we'll get there. So with that reference in mind, if you don't know, we are talking about Alien, but Romulus, not just Alien. We talked about Alien, right? Pretty sure we did Alien.
We did do Alien.
About it being a great haunted house movie in space. There's been a ton of direct sequels to the movie, comic books, novels, action figures, everything with a xenomorph on it, dude. It's all over the place. And this one, after the last few, Prometheus, I don't know how to feel about it.
Right. Yeah.
I got nothing. I'm kind of like in my head, like there's parts of it I'm like, this is really cool, but I don't know. I'm more just like put us on a spaceship somewhere and throw in a bunch of fucking xenomorphs into the equation. Kind of like, even though with the predators, that was kind of cool, and they were on like a predator planet. That shit was rad. It's like they're everywhere, and that's what they do though. They hunt. Predators are hunters. They're just looking for the best sport. Like I need somebody, and they've never found it since Arnold. He was the greatest.
And always.
Always will be. So, Alien Romulus from 2024. I did not get a chance to see it in the theater. I don't know why, but there was just a lot of shit going on, and I didn't see it in the theater. But I was very excited about it when I saw that Fede Alvarez's name was attached to it, and we had talked about this guy as well. He had done stuff with Evil Dead. Just really, anytime I see his name and look at something, I'm like, damn, dude's got a lot of talent. He sees it in a cool way. So with this one, I was very excited. Threw it on last night. Shane and I sat and watched it together. No interruptions, no phones, no nothing like that. Just sat in the dark and watched this movie. And we'll talk about whether I enjoyed it or not, and whether how you feel about it. We'll get there. But why don't you, before we start spoiling or talking anything, let us know who is in this movie, who made it, and what does IMDb think it is about?
All right, so here it is. So the cast of this movie I thought was really well casted without going to big names. And I thought that that was smart. I feel
Yeah.
like the first one kind of had that. It had this all this great talent, but maybe not necessarily like household names at the time.
Right.
Certainly not Sigourney Weaver.
Right. And, some of the other characters, would become even more household names after that. But you're right. She blew up. Like that was the thing that took her into the stratosphere. It was like, she's the fucking baddest bitch ever, dude. She's like the best ever. She was the first, like, fuck, I don't need a man. Like, I'm gonna fight my way out of this shit. And then the second one, when she's got the fucking, I can drive that lift. Okay, everybody, let's go. She's awesome. The character of Ripley, and Sigourney Weaver, she brought everything to that. But the character of Ripley is just so fucking cool.
Well, I think the girl that took over here, I think she's got a huge career in front of her because she's got that like star power to her.
Something.
And that is Kaylee Spaney. She plays Rain in this, and she's our final girl. And I don't know, she brought like a humanity to it that wouldn't
Yeah.
have been there with a lesser actress. And I just saw her in Civil War. She's like all through that, and she was really good in that. Not
Oh,
the
I didn't
fucking
even.
Marvel shit.
No, 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 no. I know what you're talking about, which I watched it when it first released, but I guess I wasn't paying that much attention to it, especially with her. Because to your point, I didn't really recognize her at the time, but once watching this movie, I'm like, oh shit, dude, like she's good. She
Yeah.
has the ability to really do some cool shit.
And she did the same thing in Civil War. She was the young photographer who winds up like tagging along.
Oh shit, that was
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, yeah. Civil War was cool. I think that
It
could be
was scary.
a little bit, especially the direction everything's going.
This guy, awesome. David Johnson. He played Andy the robot and
Dude, so
killed it, dude.
good. Playing two different characters essentially with the different
Yeah.
memory chips and shit. I was like, yeah, this guy, and that relationship between these two, really, the humanity in it, like you said, is just on display in full force, and it's a fucking great thing. Great thing.
It brought the stakes to the film because like this is a character that like you actually cared about, even though he was a synthetic.
Right.
And you understood her relationship to him and her like putting herself out there for a synthetic.
Right. Yeah, and that's always been long in the alien lore, since the very first movie, which we do have, some pullbacks to the very first fucking movie in this thing, which is cool.
A
But the
lot.
idea of we see androids as both bad and good, even though not necessarily bad, it's the programming. Who
Right.
programmed it to be that way? And as always, it's Wayland Yutani who fucking programs everything for evil. But continue, please, sir.
I want a shirt that says Wayland Yutani, programming for evil.
Right, right. Programming for evil.
Archie Renault played Tyler. He was like almost like the Michael Biehn in this, I thought.
Oh, yes, I gotcha. Wait, Tyler, was he the one that kind of looked like Josh Brolin from Goonies with the bandana?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, with the longer hair and like the cutoff. Yeah, I saw him. I was like, holy shit, Josh Brolin and Goonies. That's great.
Isabella Merced played Kay. She was the pregnant one.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
that whole scene was like, what? And then as we go down, it's just a lot of other people that were like a great cast.
Right.
Do we do the one spoiler or do we hold it off?
So let's just say now, spoiler alert, because there's no way to talk about this movie without bringing this point into it. But please, yes, proceed. So if you really don't want to be spoiled, take a break right now, watch the movie, come back, finish the episode.
Yes, because the fantastic Ian Holm is back from the original, playing the same, not the same character, but the same type of character.
Yeah, yeah, like it almost exactly it's whatever Wayland Yutani's like go-to bot or something like that. But yes. And with, of course, like young face type CGI stuff on it and makeup and things like that. But it didn't seem too aggressive. It didn't seem too egregious. I'm hoping that it ages well. I do hope that it ages well.
Right. I'm really wondering, was he even on set or was he just a voiceover?
Just like a mocap type voice thing. I mean, why would you
Yeah.
go to a set if you could just, unless he wanted to be there and was like, yeah, this is super fucking cool. I'll go back and work with the actors, interact again and do it that way. But
Yeah, I don't know. I bet they had like a stand-in double and then they just like put a face on him.
probably.
Because if sometimes it was good and sometimes it wasn't, just like the last
There was a
Indiana Jones.
couple, yeah, there was a couple where I was like, oh, that looks great. And then there was a couple where I was like, I don't know.
Right, right.
Hmm.
Um, all right, you ready to hear what IMDb has to say about Alien Romulus?
Yes.
While scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonists come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. Da, da, da.
That's pretty good. I mean, I don't think it's. You could probably sum it up like, do you like fucking xenomorphs? Watch this movie because we're so ingrained with the alien lore at this point.
You
Like
wonder what it would be like to have a face hugger all up in your shit? This one will show you.
this one really will show you. So, did you see this in the theater or did you
I did
watch it?
not. I
Yeah,
wanted to so bad. And
me
just like
too.
you said, it was a busy time. But I mean, I have my big screen at home, so I got to watch it on that.
Right, right. And it does seem like something that would have lent itself well. I've got a pretty big screen. I'm thinking about possibly starting to watch our movies of the week on my PS2 VR because it makes it like
Oh,
the
yeah,
huge
that's
like
just sweet.
IMAX. Yeah, the cinema mode is really cool.
Yeah.
So I didn't see it at the theater either. Sucked, but very happy that I got the opportunity to watch it. We open up with people in suits and they are faceless, dark, mirrored visors, and they got a big ass fucking rock. And I don't remember where they took it from, but they find this thing and we pan out at some point and we see that there is the imprint of like they had split it in half and there's like the imprint of a xenomorph on the.
They got it from the wreckage of the Nostromo. That's where they were.
I thought they said they had to search for it for a while, like around space and shit. But yeah, because it got blasted off, but they had been looking for it
Right.
a long time. And because he even says like this is again the perfect organism. He's like it's been out there, no oxygen, no fucking food, no nothing, and it still survived in
Right.
this rock. And of course, Wayland Yutani has in this movie. I love to think that my man really likes him some Resident Evil because I see some fucking Resident Evil in this movie, dude.
Totally.
Especially once we get towards the end. We'll get there, but yeah, I see a lot of Resident Evil. Um, but they're an evil corporation. They're like the Umbrella Corporation. They're just into some really fucking bad shit, and they know this thing is terrible. I want to say they even mention Ripley at one point. They throw her name out there. There was only one survivor and stuff like this. And then we cut to a mining colony, a Wayland Yutani. It looks like what's the one from Star Wars? Mustafar? Is that
Right.
it? Yeah, it looks like that shit. And they even have the doot 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 that says something like, Wayland Yutani Mining Corporation, days of sunlight zero. And I'm like, dude, that's
Bummer.
a huge bummer. And it's hard to really, I think he did a really good job, or they did a really good job of not really putting a time period on it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like any like too much more advanced, which would make sense if they had been looking for this alien for a little while. It doesn't look too much more advanced than where we were in the 70s when the original one came out. But you have our character Rain down there who hangs out with her robot buddy Andy, who's super cool. And she's getting ready to finally get off this planet. I think we were introduced to her with her dreaming about trees and sun and shit like that. So she goes to the whatever release me counter. It looks like the worst DMV you could ever imagine in your
It's
life.
really, I thought it was the DMV too.
Yeah, it looks like the worst DMV ever. And stuff is bad. There's fire everywhere going off. There's hookers. There's people doing street magic and shit. And so she's like, "Yo, I'm trying to get me and my fucking robot out of here." And the lady's like, "Oh," and she has enough, whatever. She's put in her hours or whatever. And the lady's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, your hours just got doubled. So in about 5 to 6 years, you'll be able to apply again."
Imagine, dude, being like, I'm getting out of this hellhole. It'd be like getting out of jail on your last day, and they tell you, nope, sorry, you got 5 more years.
Right. They used to do that shit. We'd be on deployment. Be like, sorry,
Uh,
bro. I mean, it was only a couple weeks, something or longer, like a month longer, but it was still like, fuck, that hurts. But
yeah, even when they cancel your short time, I'm sure was like,
oh
well,
yeah, dude. Like you got to come back right now. But she now is super distraught and goes to meet her little gang of friends who you had mentioned, a couple of the names. There was Tyler and there was the two who was like the leader, like the commando type guy who was really taking charge, the brother of the pregnant girl.
right.
That's
I think that might have been Tyler
that
actually.
might have been Tyler. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. And then the other guy was somebody else. And the other guy, the Josh Brolin from Goonies looking one, he didn't like androids because his mom died in the mine. The
Right,
android made the decision to save 13 people and let like three die to close the thing. I will say they taught us that shit on the boat, dude. Like if you got to save the fucking boat and you got to trap somebody down there, like you might have to do that. That's
right,
a fucked up thing to think about. That's why all the ships, every compartment had two exits. So if you couldn't get out one way, you could at least try and get out the fucking other way. But watertight integrity. So she goes to hang out with these cats for a while, and they're like, "Hey, there's this we caught a signal of a Weyland-Yutani vessel going through, and we're gonna go try and steal the cryopods off of it in order to house us for 9 years to get off this rock and just take the fuck off and go to this. I can't remember the name of the other planet, but somewhere much better than where they were." However, androids are not allowed, and he does find that out at some point because his primary directive, she asks a few times, is like to take care of Rain. He was
right.
a used Weyland-Yutani one that her dad, before he passed away, took, reprogrammed, and now it's her, friend in a lot of ways. They're family in almost every way. And she's
Yeah,
like,
it
oh yeah.
explains that like recently her parents have died and they died working in the mines.
Mhm.
Like they gave their whole life to fucking do this job. And now she sees that as like she's going to die if she keeps working in the mines.
Right. Yeah, she's gonna go but she's not on board at first, like, yo, we can't go rob this thing, but they need her. She's like, why do you need me if you got this great plan? Well, we need Andy because he was Weyland-Yutani android. He can stick his finger in the right hole and make everything open up.
Kind of like me.
Cornhole.
Cornhole.
So they take off. And it looks great. Like this planet looks good when they get ready to do like where she's like, hold on and shit. And the one dude smokes a whole cigarette at one time or a whole joint while the thing's going up.
Oh, yeah.
It's moving so fast. And he sits down and they're like, oh shit. It looks really good. And this planet that they're around with the big ring around it and everything looks fucking great. The closer we get to
Yeah.
this ring, it becomes a stronger threat throughout the movie. But here's the plan. We get up there, we get docked, they get stuck on there. Our two dudes and the android all go on first because they can't even breathe the air yet. They're like, okay, we got to get this thing, and shit's floating around, and then the oxygen or the gravity would recharge itself to make sure the fucking system didn't collapse or the whole station didn't collapse on itself. And he's like, okay, they got cool gadgets. He's pinging around. Look, I can see the signatures, the cold signatures or the heat signatures, whatever from the pods. Let's get in there. So they take off, they get in there, and the pods, they get one out, but he's like, oh shit, there's not enough juice in it. It'll only last for 3 years. If these don't last for 9 years, there's no reason for us to go. There could be, boom, 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 boom. He's scanning around. There could be backup pods. Oh, I see some. Let's go and check these things out. They're like, I don't fucking know, dude. He's like, nah, fuck it. It'll be good. Don't worry about it. And at this point, I don't remember. We do see her on the ship. We see Rain, thinking about Andy because the other dude's picking on him a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
He's giving
And
him a
she's
ton of shit.
watching from the ship. Her whole thing was that she's like, I'm not getting off the fucking ship. This is too dangerous. And they're like, we're going to be on and off in a half hour. And then as soon as these pods aren't ready, then he's like, okay, sorry, it's going to take a lot longer. And I can't remember what is the defining factor, but I know, yeah, that guy being mean to her brother was one of them. She's like, you guys are going to fucking kill my brother. So she goes onto the ship.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that. It's because they got trapped in that room, I think. Remember,
Mm.
like, oh fuck, we got to go get them because they pull that first thing
Oh,
out,
yeah, yeah.
and it's like, pew, shuts down, and then Andy doesn't have the override codes, and
Right.
that's when they get on because all of a sudden they're like, there's fuck something in the water, dude, and we see this is brilliant. More than
Yeah.
we've never really seen more than one face hugger, you know, like this. And this is fucking scary. And it's Resident Evil scary, dude. Shit flying at you from out of nowhere. You're knee deep in water. They're sitting down there trying to get these things out, and they've got face huggers everywhere. One tries to get dude. Nobody catches a face hugger until they get the door open because the woman with the shaved head, I can't remember what her role was. She was the pilot. The pilot fucking gets hit right in the face with one. Bam. And it's like straight down like we've seen before. And we had noticed in the past, somebody brought it up, the exposition of the X-ray tool, where you could like put it, you know, look at your arm and it'll show you the bones and stuff like that. And they like stick it on the back of her neck and you can see the whole thing going straight down her, yeah, straight down the throat. And they keep hitting the windows in his mask and shit. It keeps like and like yeah, hitting on the thing. Oh,
And they're so fucking fast in this, dude.
yeah, yeah. And the one guy has a cattle prod, essentially a really high end cattle prod, and he's batting him out of the air. All three of these cats make it out of this place pretty quick. But right before they can get the door shut, the one flies out, gets the pilot right in the face, and they're like, "Oh fuck, what do we do?" They try to first like they always do try and yank it off and we see the thing constricting around the throat like hey it's you know it's essentially a pair of external lungs when you watch this
Yeah.
one you really got to see it breathing the oxygen to keep her alive.
So,
Fucking gnarly. The pregnant
meanwhile,
one,
it's got
though,
its
she's
dick
dead.
down her throat, and she tries to pull it off, dude. And you see
Yeah,
it, how long it is, how much down her throat it is. Lots of sexual imagery in this one, dude. Lot.
a lot of you know the source material like all of his images were very sexual but this one they really put it on display whether it be a xenomorph birth where I was like dude that looks like a crowning baby that looks like a
Yeah,
fucking crowning baby coming out when the face huggers would hit the window and the glass and you'd really see the detailed like fucking vagina with a dick coming out trying to get down your throat. And then there was even more that would, you know, like you said, when the Xenomorph first comes out, it really does look like a dick.
yeah.
100%. Which the images, the original images look like dicks. You know, it was always this biomechanical. That's what he did. And so I'm in a way, I'm like, good for you, dude, for finally fucking trying it, you know, being like, hey, put that shit out there. But it is intense. It's
Yeah.
very intense. But these little ones are swimming under the water. We're getting POV shots, you know, coming up on the legs and shit. And I'm like, ah, it's
And they
good.
did some of that shit practical, which
Oh
I
yeah.
love. Puppeted
Yeah.
those things.
A lot of it was, you know, it looked practical. There was stuff
Yeah.
where it for sure wasn't where you had tons of xenomorphs piling down a tunnel all at one time, but for a lot of it, it did look really good. I was happy with the effects. So but now Andy has the new chip in him and he's like, oh, fucking company directive. Because they took the chip out of, what was his name? Ross or
Rook.
Rook, that's what it was. Rook. They take the programming chip out of Rook and put it in with Andy's. And we've seen before that she has to reset him sometimes. She's got to go click his thing back and forth.
And he's kind of broken. And so he's really he has a stutter. And
Hmm.
as soon as they put the other chip into him, he's like a different person. He loses the stutter
And the
and he's
dad jokes.
fast and he's strong.
Yeah.
Oh, dad
And
jokes crack me up, dude. I loved
yeah,
the
the
dad.
dad jokes were really good throughout. You just got to watch it. We're not going to actually try and remember any of those, but you just got to watch it. It's really good shit. And some of them were really funny. I was like, fuck, that's good. Um, but yes, now he is holding open doors. He's sprinting at a crazy speed. But he has talked to Rook, the other android, and he's like, okay, this is what we were trying to do up here. And we learned that essentially what was the purpose from the beginning, they've now fulfilled with being able to extract and synthesize some piece of the xenomorph, the xenomorph for human combination or some sort of human use.
Right, which kind of that's goes into the Prometheus stuff. And
Right.
they have extracted that black shit that the guy put in the water that made the fucking weird white dudes. It's
Yeah.
complicated.
It is complicated. It's a very deep and convoluted lore, but it is a fun one to explore. It usually doesn't disappoint. Even the Predator versus Alien shit, I like. I don't give a fuck. I'm like, dude, it's Predators versus Aliens. That's great.
Yeah.
What more do
Yeah.
you want? Now, the first one being PG-13, I think hurt it, but when they did the R-rated one, that for sure helped out a lot.
Oh, I haven't
Because
seen it, that version.
you've never seen the Requiem, the sequel?
Oh, I saw the Requiem. I thought
Yeah.
that there was an R-rated version of the first one.
No, 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 no. No, the first one I don't think there is. There might be an unrated, that doesn't do anything to it. But the second one, because I want to say it was like AVPR. And they
Yeah.
wanted you to know it was a fucking R. Like, okay, we're gonna do the thing that you wanted the first time. So come out, please. Pay all your monies and come see it. So now he communicates, Andy and Rook have communicated. We don't know where Andy's loyalties lie right now because I want to say, even asks him at one time, like, what's your prime directive? And he's like, benefiting the Wayland Yutani Corporation or
Yeah,
some
it's
shit
no
like
longer to
that.
help
Right,
Rain. Now it's
right. To
like
keep Rain
fuck you
alive.
all over and get a Xenomorph.
Right. And we see them. This is cool. This is the first time I want to say we've really seen a facehugger removed, right? Like before it, because they decide to freeze it. They're like, maybe if we use this super cold, whatever, like some Art the Clown liquid nitrogen looking backpack thing, if we use that on the face hugger, then it'll unconstrict and we can pull it out. And this is where you said you see the whole thing, how far it was down her throat, like coming
Yeah.
out, and it's gnarly. So she's on the ground and then just jumps up like, "Fuck," freaks out. She's terrified. I'm going back to the ship. You guys, and he's like, we can't go back to the ship. We got to do this. Everybody's in panic mode now. Like, what are we gonna fucking do? Because they throw the face hugger, and I want to say it's done its purpose. Like maybe it just crashes against the wall or something along those lines. But now Andy knows, and I want to say tells them, like, from what the programming, the memory chip or whatever, I know that this organism was trying to essentially put a seed in her, a parasite to gestate. And this, though, I want to say this is fast as fuck, dude. They went from like in your mouth to fuck blowing out your chest to full grown
Right.
xenomorph quick,
That's
really
always
quick.
been my problem with the modern ones is that the transformation happens way too fucking fast. Alien versus Predator was the same thing. It
Yeah,
was like fucking egg in your face
so
and then
quick, dude.
got a
So
full
quick.
blown queen alien. Like,
Yeah, whereas in the original, you see the fucking pods opening slowly, like it's a slow kind of thing, and you feel like they had been there for a while. But this one is quick. And so she runs back, the pilot runs back to the ship and we're gonna move it over to the other side. We'll go get the pods and then we'll go from here. We gotta do something. But she's freaked the fuck out. The pregnant girl had thrown up and she's like, ah, shit, I'm just going to stay here and sleep. And then Pilot runs in like, ah, fuck, everything went south fast. And she's like, oh no, what's going on? And she's like, I can't fucking let this happen or that happen. And goes to try and fly away or fly somewhere to redock it. And that's when she's like, oh shit. And they put the fucking x-ray thing next to her. And it's like, you can see it in there. And it's punching against her rib cage. You could see it. Its face is like hitting the bones, like slamming against it. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And pregnant girl's like, holy fuck. Like, what happened on this ship, man? But the controls get knocked away, and this is where the ship goes like crashing through a couple things. It hits some kind of a fuel container. I feel like there was a big kind of boom somewhere at some point. But the big thing was is it knocked the ship enough off course, the station, to where they thought they had 3 days. Now they have 40 some odd minutes in order
yeah,
to get off this thing. So it ups the stakes in a cool way. And again, I could have just watched that fucking ring, dude. I was like, it looks so good
yeah.
every time it
It
was
did. It
going
was like
by.
Saturn's rings, and the ship is getting pulled into it, and that's why they only have like 3 hours left, is because the ship is going to go into the rings and get just totally fucked up.
Right, just decimated in this ring of stuff that's going around. And is Rook? I think Rook is hooked up at this point and is,
This
communicating
is
to
the
them
point where at
through.
first when they find Rook, he's laying face down. But even face down, I was like, wait
No,
a
yeah,
minute.
yeah, yeah.
And then they flip him over, and it's Ian Holm, who was the android on the first ship. He's
What
not
was it?
that
What was his
android.
name in the first ship?
Bishop?
I thought Bishop was part two. I thought
Uh,
that was
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Ash. Ash. There we go.
Ash.
Yeah,
Yeah. How did we forget Ash?
I know,
What's
right?
wrong?
So he's now popping up on screens and things like that and talking to them, being like, okay, do this, do that. He's trying to get control of their ship and just ensure that the sample from the lab that was created gets on that ship and back to Weyland Yutani home base, wherever that's going to be. Meanwhile, they they have to go, and I might remember some of this out of order. I forgive me, I've only seen it the one time, but I remember them going through that tunnel or that room full of fucking face huggers where they got to be quiet.
Yeah.
Dude. And that's before the ship crashed. That's right before because her brother is on the radio and that's when they start fucking
Yeah.
their little legs start. Ah, man, they're everywhere. And he's like,
Yeah.
okay, if we cool ourselves off, if we raise the room temperature to our body temperature, they probably won't see us because they hunt not by sight. It's by sound or movement or heat signatures. I mean, I guess why would you need to see if you could pick up body heat, for the most part? And so they're navigating this thing and it's intense. It's good. He builds really good tension throughout this whole thing. So you got all these little fucking face huggers everywhere and they barely make it out because she calls them on the radio and is like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Shit's bursting out of people. This is getting terrible. And he's trying to real quiet talk to her and they're just slowly like figuring it out. And man, it was good tension. They barely make it out of that room. Now we're into the next room, and I can't remember. Oh, because they do find the big xenomorph pod, and the kid sticks his fucking cattle prod straight into it, and he's like, "You motherfucker!" like screaming at this thing. And part of me was like, "Oh shit! Did they find a way to kill one in a pod?" It looks like he might have actually accomplished it, and then out of nowhere, dude.
And super sexual imagery.
Oh,
He was
very.
penetrating that pod.
Yeah, and it looked very much like a vagina. It looked very
Yeah.
much like a vagina. And we hear some rattling though and screaming like the xenomorph is experiencing something. And he steps away like, oh, fuck you, alien. And then the tail just comes out and pins him whoosh, straight
Yeah.
to the chest. Yeah. And then it kind of like slowly climbs out and like the fingers are cracking open and all this stuff. And yeah, it's really intense. I feel like their teeth are keep getting shinier though. Were they that fucking like diamond grill pieces and shit in the original?
They're like they were metallic in the first one, and I had to go back to and rewatch
Okay.
scenes from the first one because I
Yeah.
was like, were they that shiny? But they are.
I can't imagine he would have, missed a detail like that. This is somebody who clearly cares about this franchise in a way that, wanted to pay it a lot of respect in jumping on to put a volume out there. But yeah,
And
that's
give him his proper credit, dude. We're like 8 alien movies, maybe even more, dude. And he still took the original design without changing it and making it like, oh, now he's part shark. Like he just
shot.
and made it scary again.
Yeah. Now we do get some changes once we get a little bit closer to the end. Not something that we hadn't seen before. We've seen a lot of weird things in the Alien franchise. I liked the video that they find with like the rat and shit, and then you saw the rat busted out of the cage with his face all fucking xenomorphed out. But they smash this rat. We get to watch a video where they crush it between two plates like a car compactor, and it's just flat. And then they inject it with this serum that they very Umbrella Corporation, this magical pharmaceutical thing. What he said is that we're trying to push evolution, like we don't have time to wait, so this is the next step and we're just going to get there really fucking fast. um and did she have somebody had them in the containers because I feel like they had the little vials in a small briefcase or something like that. Somebody's got them somewhere, but the pilot's dead and then they have to get old girl is in the room with the xenomorph, and this was fucked up, man. Because
Crazy.
yeah, because Andy wouldn't put his finger in to open it up. Now this is very reminiscent of the original, where Ripley is like, "No." That's not the protocol. You stay out there for 24 hours, and if they would have listened to Ripley, none of that shit would ever happen. And this is the same way. Andy's like, I can't. And he even tells them, he's like, she's waiting for us to open the door. And you get this shot from up in the ceiling, looking over a Xenomorph's shoulder who's just watching the door, like just baiting it. I'm like,
Yeah,
dude, that's good.
that's
That's
so
good.
good.
Yeah, and he's talking truth through the window, like, ah, and they're like, Andy, open the fucking door, blah, 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 blah. And then we just see her get speared and, baby inside and all pulled up to the ceiling. Um, but not dead. We get some weird shit with that later too. Not dead yet. So they turn, Rain especially is like, I think this is where she says, what's your prime directive? And, he says, and he even tries to make the point though. He's like, if I would have opened that, we'd all three be dead. There's
Right.
no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If I'd opened it up, we'd all three be dead. Now they take off down another passageway. I think they're trying to get to the ship at this point. And this space station looks dope. There's money behind it. Like you said, it looks
Horizon, like Resident Evil, it's all there, man.
it's all there. And it looks really good to the original source material as well. A lot of it, the aesthetic looks very much the same. So now they are gonna go that way, but I can't remember when he dies, when our Macho Man dies. Do you recall when I recall the scenes in the elevator, like when they're in the elevator shaft. Oh, and trying to get through, but no, that's when he's already dead. When she starts
There
to
was
look like Ripley, when she's got the they're like, you know how to shoot this gun? They're like, it's the what were they called? The Marines, the Space Marines, or whoever they were used to use these things. Yeah,
yeah.
Colonial
They've got the
Marines.
blaster guns, but again, they're in this position where if they shoot off the blaster gun and
Right.
they hit an alien, the acid blood is going to melt through the bottom of the ship and they're all toast. So
Right.
we've got these guns, but we can't use them.
Right. And so she's still carrying it around because I think that's when Tyler says something about, or somebody says they may perceive it as a threat and
Right.
might not attack. The guns were cool though. They like had auto locking features on it. They're like, it'll pick up the heat signature and do the rest for you. Just pull the fucking trigger. And
Right.
I'm like, that's kind of cool though. So, but man, I can't remember when he dies. That's a bummer because it was
I feel
probably
like they wind up in a part of the ship. They come down like a ladder or something, and they see where the aliens have made their alien hive
yeah.
inside the
I just don't remember if he was there during that point because that's when they go and find the girl. They find
right.
the pregnant girl and she ends up going into a cryopod, but not before Rain turns off the gravity and shoots the shit out of all them aliens, and the acid blood is just in
That was
zero
my
G.
favorite thing, dude. That was
Yeah.
my favorite thing in the movie. Just seeing the acid blood like spinning around, and you're just like, fuck. Like you said, there's so much great tension in this movie. And I
Yeah.
think that that is what people were loving, and that was lacking in Prometheus, were those kinds of
Right.
sequences. And that's why it didn't hit with audiences the way the original Alien movies did.
Yeah. And I do think I really like three. I'm a big three fan. And that, I think it is the director's cut. You got to watch that longer version. It makes it make more sense. But I like that one a lot too. But yeah, it's to watch it as it started to spiral and it's like click. And this is the shit if you ever played the video games that you're used to, it's from the time of the arcade games. It was we're fuck colonial marines shooting the shit out of everything with blaster guns and it's red. But in this instance, they are in space and alien blood does melt everything. I think we even saw it with one of the Facehuggers had done something or another. But either way, she's in there. Her and Andy. There was something with the elevator though, where the elevator goes crashing down, and like she thinks she's alone, but then she goes back to get Andy. She's like, I can't leave him. She has that change of heart.
Yeah, yeah. And she goes back down for him, which is that crazy scene where you're like, why the fuck would you go back for an android? Why would you risk your human life for that?
Right.
But he meant so much more to her. He wasn't just an android, he was like her surrogate parents.
Right, dude. Do androids stream of electric sheep? Like that's the real fucking question right here because it is. It is a very established and good relationship. And I think she ends up taking the other chip out of his head. Yeah, that's right. She takes it out because he's just down there fucking twitching on the ground. And she has this moment of realization like he'll just be down there,
Right.
just twitching. But we do get to see a lot of fucking cool xenomorphs crawling all over the place. The pregnant girl, she got one right on her face, but they got it off super fast. And they're like,
Yeah,
I
they
don't know
thought
if it
maybe it didn't have time.
right. So we'll stick her in the cryo and then they'll be able to figure it out with the serum stuff. Cause I want to say they were even gonna inject her at first. He was gonna poke her in the heart, but then didn't, and then she got herself.
She did it to herself, dude. Yeah, because
Right.
she knew she was gonna die.
Right. So she ends up poking herself with this fucking G virus. And now
Yep.
I mean, it really is. And they put her in the sleep tank. Rain goes back to get Andy. I don't recall exactly how they get rid of all. I know there's some great moments where the xenomorph, oh, because the elevator went crashing down, knocked all the other ones down, but the big one was hiding fucking around the corner and comes out looking at her. And that's when Andy comes down over the side with a gun, like, brrr, and then lands on it and is falling all the way down with this thing. So somewhere along there, and then she's got to go back to get Andy. The meanwhile, Rook is telling him, "Just get that sample on there. Give me control." And he doesn't even give a fuck if any of them live. He's just like, "Get it on the ship and give me control so I can send it to Wayland Yutani." She does get Andy back, takes his thing out. They get to the girl, but then is the pod opened? No, she opens it to check on her, maybe. And that's when she's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it gets gnarly.
It
She
gets
gets,
gnarly.
yeah, she gives birth to this little, was it first just like an egg thing that then when it cracked open, the little guy came out of?
I just remember a lot of slimy, squishy, bloody
Yeah.
imagery. But
Yeah.
yeah, basically like an alien human hybrid comes out of her, which they attempted in four.
Right.
It was just so gross that I can hardly watch four, even though I really like that version.
Yeah.
And
It's a cool movie. But it is
but
like, mama,
yeah,
mama. Because it
it was
loves
too much. This one I felt did a better job of not it was gross and disturbing,
yeah.
but more in a haunting way rather than a disgusting way.
Okay, so you've played Resident Evil 4, correct?
Yes.
You played 4. Do you remember when you're down in the lab, you got to run through all these underground tunnels, and there's a creature chasing you with a long tail, this huge distorted humanoid like, and this guy really is some kind of fucked up mix between the two. Because I want to say he even goes back to find he's the one who kills who would I guess been his mother. Because that fucking long weird like comes out of his mouth. Yeah, and then somebody finds him draining her, and it's very very distorted. He's got big vagina on his back. His fucking no genitals walking around. I'm serious, dude. It was fucking creepy. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's Resident Evil 4. Like I've fought that motherfucker so many times. You could put me and that creature in a tunnel together and I would do better. Because as long as there was explosive barrels around and cryo tanks that I could shoot to slow him down, do it,
I want to
dude.
see that movie now. Pops Ghostly versus the alien.
Right? Let's do it, man. Pops Ghostly versus the I would love to make that movie. Um, so, but where do we get? Because she has to fight the alien thing, right? Like, but and it's stalking her around, and I can't remember how she eventually. I know she goes to spray it at one time to make it cold, and it swats the shit out of her hand. But where did it
This is
go?
it gets real rapey here, dude. Like the alien thing, it wants her for nefarious reasons.
Maybe, maybe. Well, because it's kind of like now you think about their insatiable hunger, though, the insatiable hunger of the xenomorph to do nothing but to conquer and reproduce, just to reproduce to everything that you possibly can. Mix that with a human. Yep, yep, yep,
Want
yep,
to
yep.
fornicate, eat, and
Yeah.
reproduce.
But how does she end up killing it? Does it get sucked down? I know they end up with a hole in the ship
Yeah,
somewhere.
pretty sure she blows it out of the fucking airlock, like we've seen hundred of times.
I
But
feel like it might have been something different, but I will go back and watch this again. I mean, I am excited to see it again because it was a lot of fun. And then they do like Rook is trying to take over the ship, but she shuts that shit down. She gets him to help enough to get them going, and then is like, "Oh, I'm turning your programming off. It's not on autopilot; it's on manual." And now she is going to get into the cryo tube. I think it's just her and Andy, right?
yeah,
Then they float off into the great unknown. And we
into
do
this.
see that's how the fucking alien dies, dude, is we see it like holding on or some shit when it's getting closer to the rings. Because the whole time she's
Oh
fighting
yeah,
against that ring time.
yeah. The ship is getting dragged into the ring, and then it gets put outside, and it gets all fucked up in the ring, and then that ship all explodes and everything, and she escapes.
And they barely get out though. It's like they're almost gonna fall into it because something happens where the navigation doesn't work, and they're getting real close, and then they're able to fix it at the end and
Yeah.
get out into space. And I don't remember if there was anything really.
They ended it very like Ripley, like she was like, "I'm the last survivor of such and such, going
Yeah,
into no sleep. Maybe I'll wind up getting
right.
found somewhere."
Yeah, if nobody finds me, then that's okay. And she even looked like Ripley when she had the gun. I
Yeah,
loved it. I mean, kind of like the tank top almost, a little bit thicker, like a t-shirt without arms more than a tank top. But yeah, and she's got the gun out in front of her where, Ripley didn't always have the guns, but yeah, it was super cool. All right, so Alien Romulus. Out of how many weird man baby xenomorphs do you give Alien Romulus?
I'm gonna give this a 4.5, dude. I enjoyed the shit out of it. I think what Fede Alvarez does really well and what he did with Evil Dead is that he doesn't reinvent the wheel. He maximizes the things that we loved about the original.
While still making it feel kind of new in its own way. And it's
Exactly. Yeah. It didn't feel like a ripoff of any of the other aliens, although it had elements from all the other alien
right,
movies.
right. Even the man child.
He sticks the landing, and I don't even know what it is that he's done that sticks the landing, other than he stays true to the source material. He gives us more of what we love. I realized afterwards, I was like, how many fucking alien movies have we had on a spaceship?
Right,
Like a lot of the same images over and over. Let's see the alien somewhere different, you know?
right, right. Yeah.
What I hear is they're doing Alien Earth is going to be a TV series for Fox.
That would be sweet. And Fox owned by Disney now, so I'm assuming it'll, have a budget behind it and shit. But Alien Earth would be, I'd be all right with that. And you really got to have the Marines fighting them. But then does it just become Starship Troopers?
Exactly. Yeah. How do you do that and make it
Better
fresh?
than how,
Give
yeah,
it
how do
fresh.
you do that? Because Starship Troopers is like perfect. You know what I mean? Somehow they took that weird fucking idea and made this awesome satirical space bug fighting thing that just rules. But I'm gonna go 4. I'm gonna go 4 out of 5 on this one. I really enjoyed it. There was a ton of shit that I liked. It's just hard when my 5, is Alien. And to me, Alien, that original Alien really is like a pretty much fucking perfect movie.
Really
There's
good.
yeah, there's so much there. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with a 4 because I think, like you said, it was really solid. Even at 2 hours, I felt like I could have used another half hour of it. I was so invested in that world. I was like, dude, just keep showing me the shit these people are going through because they're
Yeah,
acting
it
the fuck out
moves.
of it. Yeah. And even though it was moving fast, I still wanted more of that. I was like, this is cool, dude. Like, you made Alien cool again. And yeah, so 4 out of 5. I'll take it all day. Good recommendation. I'm glad it finally hit that $20 mark on iTunes, so I felt justified in picking that up and supporting the podcast in that way. And I want to mention, I'm going to have a show coming out with Summy sometime soon. We were supposed to record next week, but I'm going to be down at Port Huron. My folks need me for some stuff down there, so I got to end up going down that way. But yeah, so I'll be sure to post that and share that and all that shit when we do that. It'll be fun. He's got such a huge list of movies that making Tarantino the podcast list. I was just
That guy's
looking.
out of control with his podcast, dude. He has like I don't even feel like I can talk to him anymore because he's in this outer stratosphere of podcasting that I can't even reach.
Right. He's doing great things, man. I'm happy for him though. He puts in the work, He puts in the work,
Right.
put out
Oh, the
quality.
hardest working podcaster in the business, dude. I swear to God.
One of the nicest guys you'll ever fucking meet, man. All right, so let's jump over to the mindful news. Oh, Terrifier 3 is about to come out though, so we might have to do that again because I'm gonna watch it again.
You're a creep.
I'm gonna watch it a lot. No. So for the mindfulness part of today, and I actually made sure that I brought a piece because with using my phone for my video, I normally have it in front of me so I can open my phone up. But I was like, oh, I got my iPad to make sure that I can actually read it. I like this one a lot. And this is from, I don't know how to say this name. Tionette Lepe somewhere. Please forgive me. But this is the quote right here. So we've got, why is it that we yearn to be more or other than we are? So just start with there. Why is it that we yearn to be more or other than we are? It so rarely occurs to us that what we are looking for may be, indeed, always is, always within us, or already within us, simply undiscovered. That is, to me, that's like a hopeful thing
Yeah.
because it just says, do you want to find it? Are you willing to look for that thing that you want? Because I agree with that statement in that most everything already does exist. And you just have to find a way to look in as opposed to like out for the satisfaction or, and to not let your anger take over. I've torn my whole house upside down in the past couple of days, slowly looking through all kinds of shit, cleaning all kinds of shit up because I lost my passport, my birth certificate, my social security card.
Wow.
Yeah, all three together. I'm like, okay, those aren't in the fireproof safe. Like, where would I have everybody else's shit is there, all the kids, wives, everybody's is there, but mine's disappeared. So I spent like 3 days looking for that shit, just cleaning everything up, but never really found myself mad about it. I was just like, it just is what it is. It is what it is. And I have it within me to either, lash out at the people around me, like, leave me the fuck alone. I'm trying to I'm trying to find this fucking thing. Can't you see I'm doing something? It's very easy to do that.
Yeah.
It's very easy to be like, oh, could you just give me a fucking second? I gotta find, it's very, very easy to do that. Or I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start slowly working through my whole house. So Shayna helped me. We turned the whole upstairs upside down. Everywhere where I thought it would be, everywhere where I really thought it would be, it was not there. I said, okay, I'm going to move my way to the basement. Went down to the back part of the basement, went through all kinds of shit, like went through the garage. The next day was the garage, went through the whole garage. Said, okay, it's not out there. I didn't accidentally leave a container or anything out there. And there's one little utility room in the bottom of our basement where I ended up finding my shit at. But even when I found it, I wasn't like overjoyed or anything. I was just like, yeah, this is it seemed like the logical conclusion. Like I was like, yes, but even if I wouldn't have found it, I'd have been like, yeah, it's not there. But at least I put in the word to fucking try. I mean, I looked everywhere, but I'm very happy that I found it. But that I believe goes really well with what this individual is saying about you have the power within you to control those things, but it's very hard because the world around us in our society, in our materialistic, obsessive, very vain kind of society. And it's not like any one person's fault. I'm not out here blaming any one individual, but it's very, very hard to not let other people decide how you're going to feel or to influence the way you're going to feel.
Right. That's why influencers are the goddamn devil.
Well, and the thing is, those influencers have been around forever. You know what I mean? Like the idea of
Yeah,
it is
just in other forms.
right, right, right. The only motherfucker who is like, yo, you won't influence my audience at all. Fucking Mr. Rogers, dude. He said, you will never put a commercial on my shit. He said, because I don't want kids being confused about what is TV and what's a commercial. And that's even now, I notice a lot of times when an ad is on, it has to say advertisement on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were always looking to influence, write a fucking catchy jingle. Wash your hands with Dawn dish soap. Ladies, are you ready to scrub your man's dishes when he's done eating? Like I look at old radio shows and it's been around for that long. But it is, who do you let influence you? And have you taken the time? Because I think if we don't look inward, we put on this armor of external things to define who we are. Whether it be I'm a this fan, I'm a that fan, I believe in this, I believe in that. It becomes a shield that protects us in a way. When in reality, it's like get rid of all that if you can. Don't have an identity with anything, which is a hard fucking thing to do. It really is. But to not be so closely tied that it's part of your identity with anything, and then start to look inward and say, oh, okay, how do we figure out this shit? Because this is the one thing I truly can. Because you can't, if we weren't, if we put our stake and our stock and our worth into external things, those external things can be taken away and cause suffering. But when your worth is not tied to anything external, that makes it really fucking hard for people to manipulate you in a lot of ways, because it's coming from someplace else. You're not impressed by it. And you start looking then, you, me, all of us start looking then for the deeper things in others. Somebody would be like, "Oh, look at my brand new fun car." You're like, "Yeah, that's cool, but I don't care."
Mhm.
And I hate to say it that way, but a lot of times I genuinely don't. I'm like, I want to be with you. Like, I want to be with you, the human being that I'm here with right now, hanging out with. Your stuff isn't going to change my opinion of you, but if you got a rotten core, that it shows no matter what. It shows no matter what. If you have a shit tree in your garden that's been sprinkling down shit acorns and shit leaves all over the place, you can see it on people. You can see it. And so tend to that garden, turn it on the inside. And then once you figure out that shit, then all the external can become so much cooler because you're not tied to anything. It's like I can just be here and fucking experience this. Like there's nothing, I'm not worried about like, oh, this, that, what do they believe? Well, I don't give a fuck. Like, let's just all be here together at the same time. And I think once you start to look for that internal and how to change that internal stuff, then that's when it starts to reveal itself a little bit. It's fucking cool, dude. I don't know how else to say it. I've tried every way of life. And I feel like this is the only one that genuinely makes sense and pays back in dividends over and over and over and over again in every way possible. Whereas all the other stuff, collecting money, like that just gets fucking weird because now you're just comparing yourself to everybody else. Oh, who's got the nice thing? And now I'm wearing a front because I don't want people to think I have real problems because I got a fucking, 125, $200,000 a year job. You got to be this person where you put on a different from somewhere else. Oh, I'm great. Everything's fine all the time when it's really not. And then that starts to grow and then it starts to seep out. And then it's like you do get that fucking mean voice. And you're like, just leave me the fuck alone. And it has nothing to do with what you're doing. It's got nothing to do with it. You're just angry at the world. So I like that though. I like that a lot, it's there already. It's nothing. There is nothing fucking special about Pops Ghostly. There is zero special. Everyone has the capacity to make this kind of change in their life. You have it inherently. Like you can't get rid of it. As much as you can be an angry piece of shit, you can be a really kind, fucking loving individual if you want. We all have that ability, that two wolves, which one do you feed? We all have that ability. And there's nothing you need. There's no extra fucking equipment. There's no nothing. You just need yourself. Now, me personally, I found studying people who dedicated their lives to, this type of thinking and more esoteric, metaphysical type of thinking. I study those people and I'm like, yeah, you gave your whole life for me to be able to take this little tidbit of breathing information and fucking do something cool with it. Thanks, guy. Like that was fucking awesome. But we all have because these cats didn't have nothing. They were just hanging out in the fucking desert or the jungle somewhere. No, nothing, no radio, no TV, no internet, no fucking running water, like outside the river. That's where you got your running water, was the river. It actually was running water. You had to take a shit, you went out in a hole. Can you imagine if you're freezing your ass off out in an outhouse right now? Dude, our ancestors, I'm telling you, they're looking at us like, you bunch of we fucking sacrificed everything for this.
Yeah.
Look at you. Look at you. I was talking to my son about it recently. We were out driving. He's got his permit, and we were talking about different eras in time and shit. He was talking about history, stuff he's studying in school. And we got into a conversation about how will people look back on us right now, in 200 years, how will they look back at this? And my thought is they're going to look back and kind of be like, you fuckers wasted everything. Like you burned through all the resources for packaging on Shopkins and shit like that. I think they're going to see some of that. Will they fix it? Probably. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, this it's fucking crazy, man. I don't know. Crazy. The world's crazy. But I keep going on trying to do the nice shit and do the right things. And again, I found that just seems to work. Just seems to work out right. It's like and I believe it is all connected. Like there's no separation between me and you or this fucking desk. I was looking at a bowl of beans and greens. I was eating some collard greens and some fucking beans earlier. And if you look at it long enough, and this sounds strange, but you look at it long enough, you can see the sunshine in it. You think about it and you're like, okay, it took the sun, it took the earth, it took water, it took all these things. It took somebody to make this bowl, it took somebody to make this spoon, somebody to mine the raw materials that were then used to turn into this bowl. It took, somebody to make the stove that it was cooked on, whoever invented the idea of the fucking electric stove or the gas stove and shit like that. It takes all these components, but often we're just like, oh, it's just a pile of food. I don't know. The more you can, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Fucking love that movie. But yeah, you got anything you want to I know I kind of rambled there a little bit at the end, but you got anything you want to add to the
You always seem to resonate with what's going on with me right at that moment. I don't know how you do it. It's because I guess because your pop's ghostly. But yeah, no, I've been, as anybody that's listened to this, I've been struggling with a lot of stuff. Recently, even more stuff, is coming up and everything. And I'm like, I don't know where to go or what to think sometimes. But I've really come to the realization that like the only thing that I have that I can control is myself. The only thing that I need, the only tool that I need is myself. And as long as I keep that in good shape so that it runs when I need it, then everything's going to be okay.
You're right, dude. You're right. And almost all of it is trivial, man. Almost all of it. There's
All
gonna
the stuff that we tear ourselves up about is really
is
nothing when you look at
no.
it.
I mean, there's gonna come a time when nobody's gonna know what a podcast was. If science is right, there's gonna come a time when our sun explodes and everything's gone. Will we be living way out somebody who's going to give a fuck about, some shit that happened before the earth ate the sun? We're talking billions of years or whatever. But um, yeah, the only thing you can control is yourself. And we get though worked up about these things, these small things. I'm kind of with you right now. It's like life just keeps throwing challenge after challenge at me. And I'm like, okay, man, like, is this going to slow down? Is it going to slow
Right.
down at some point? But I find it really helpful to, instead of running away from those uncomfortable uncertainty feelings, trying to actually just sit in them and
Yeah.
dissect it a little bit and be like, what are you? What is this? What is this feeling? And why am I experiencing it? Is it the real thing? Am I afraid I'm not going to be able to work anymore? Or is there a couple layers I could peel back to figure out that I feel like I'm letting down, my family? Like the feeling might be something deeper, and to sit in those uncomfortables as opposed to trying to run away from them. Because when we run away, that don't help it. It's still there. It's like that episode
Right.
of the Twilight Zone with the hitchhiker where he just keeps popping up on the side of the road, like going my way. Those bad feelings are going to keep coming back. Like, yo, bro, I ain't leaving anywhere. But when you sit with them, you can kind of understand them and pull them apart a little bit and meet them more compassionately, as opposed to seeing it as a huge negative thing. The fact that you are here, bad feeling, is a negative thing. You should go away. You can sit with bad feeling and be like, hey, why you bad? Can I bring a little goodness to this? Can I bring a little peace to this? And we'll talk about it. Bad feeling might be like, yo, thanks, dude. I'm tired of being thrown around and shit like that. It'd be nice to be dealt with and taken care of.
You hit the nail on the head there. Like, I feel like my biggest problem is like, I look at all these problems that are happening and I'm like, how am I going to deal with these problems? But really, it all comes down to like the thought that, like, as long as I'm confident in myself that I can handle anything, but also my biggest problem is not any of this outside stuff that's happening, it's my inaction to dealing with the problems because I'm trying to focus on everything when really I should just be focusing on myself because that's the only thing I'm going to have left at the end of all this shit. And my inaction is what is hurting myself. So like me being like, oh, next week I'm going to get a gym membership, but I got this going on this week, so I'm not going to do it.
Right.
I'm going to get another job, but like I'm not going to look because I need to play video games to like refresh myself from my day at my job.
Right.
That kind
Yeah.
of shit.
I get it, man. I 100% get it. And the more you can let the more you can let it all go and be like, okay, this is just where am I at right this second? Right now
Yeah.
with those breaths, dude. The breaths really help. And where am I at right this second? And you're right though, and I feel it's not even just us. Like we built collectively a culture that demands certain things, and we've been raised in it for generations. And so there's a genetic memory that's like, I should be doing the fucking 9 to 5. I should be doing this, this fucking thing. If I'm not doing this, then I'm a piece of shit. When in reality, that's not true. In reality, most shit doesn't or will ever truly matter. I think the only thing that really matters is the relationships you have in the world. Like that's really it. How you leave the world. Are you leaving it a better place? When you have a quick opportunity to tell someone to fuck off or to take a breath and be like, you know what? Have a nice day. Because they might be having a shit day. You don't know. They might be rude just because they're lashing out in a different way. But now if we lash back, we're just creating more lash outs. But if we take a breath, you know what, dude? I'm sorry. Fucking have a great day. You might, who knows? Butterfly effect changed the whole course of history. Might not have
Don't
hit.
be the noisiest person in the room. Be
Yeah.
the quietest person in
That's a Jason Statham thing right there.
the room.
Cool. Episode 53, I believe this was in the books. We are coming up on Thanksgiving pretty quick here. Big USA, USA, Turkey Day, football, turkey, yeah. I love Thanksgiving, dude. It's honestly one of my favorite holidays because I feel it's so low stress for the most part. You get together for one day. There's not a lot of lead up to it. You put on some relatively nice clothes. If you're hosting, it's a little bit bigger. You want to make sure shit's a little, situated and everybody's taken care of. But if you're going to your brothers, your moms, your sisters, some shit like that, or some family, hopefully you've got that to go to. Show up with a dish of fucking casserole and be like, yo, what up? Everybody hugs it out. You have a good time. You eat until you're fucking disgustingly like, I can't move. Watch some football. And then you go home. There's nothing else after that. You're not taking down a whole bunch of decorations and things. It's not Christmas shopping all the way up into that point in time. It's just a nice little, and Thanksgiving often gets forgotten. But so maybe Poultrygeist. Nah, I can't do it. Can't do it. All right, for the Horror Pop Extravaganza, episode 53. I have been Pops Ghostly.
I'm Corinne Hole. Cornhole.
And we will talk to you next week. Cornhole.
No! No! No!
Extravaganza.